In the heart of New York City, in a luxurious penthouse overlooking Central Park, a millionaire lies in a deep coma. For 17 years, the world has moved on without him, but within the sterile walls of his room, time seems to stand still. Emma Thompson, a 25-year-old nurse, has spent the last few years working at St. Vincent's Hospital. Her compassionate nature and dedication to her patients have quickly made her beloved among staff and patients alike. Emma's life outside the hospital is simple and solitary, a stark contrast to the vibrant chaos of the city. Today, as she begins her shift, Emma is assigned to a new patient in the private wing. Little does she know that this encounter will alter her life in ways she could never have imagined. Emma enters the dimly lit room, the soft hum of medical equipment filling the silence. Her gaze falls upon the patient, Thomas Whitmore, a man who was once at the pinnacle of success, now a mere shadow of his former self. As Emma checks his vitals, she notices an old photograph on the nightstand. It's a picture of Thomas with a radiant smile, standing beside a young woman. Her curiosity piqued, Emma makes a silent promise to uncover the story behind this man and his mysterious past. Days turn into weeks, and Emma's routine becomes intertwined with Thomas's care. She talks to him, even though he can't respond, sharing stories of her life and her dreams. Unbeknownst to her, these conversations begin to stir something deep within Thomas. One evening, while Emma is reading aloud from a novel, Thomas's eyelids flutter. It's a fleeting moment, but it's enough to give Emma hope. She reports the incident to Dr. Matthews, the attending physician, who dismisses it as a reflex. Determined to reach Thomas, Emma searches through his belongings and finds an old locket. Inside is a picture of the same young woman from the photograph. Emma feels an inexplicable connection to this piece of jewelry, as if it holds the key to Thomas's awakening. With renewed determination, Emma makes it her mission to bring Thomas back. She begins to dig deeper into his past, hoping to find the answers that will break through the barriers of his coma. As Emma delves into Thomas's life, she discovers his tragic love story. Thomas was once deeply in love with a woman named Elizabeth, but their relationship was torn apart by betrayal and secrets. The more Emma learns, the more she feels drawn to Thomas, her heart aching for the man he once was. One night, as Emma is about to leave, she notices a faint tear rolling down Thomas's cheek. It's the first sign of emotion she has seen, and it sends shivers down her spine. Could it be that her presence is awakening something within him? As Emma continues to uncover Thomas's past, she stumbles upon a hidden letter that reveals a shocking truth. The letter hints at a betrayal so deep that it shakes Emma to her core. What she discovers next will not only change her perception of Thomas, but also bring her closer to unraveling the mystery of his coma. How far will she go to uncover the truth? And what sacrifices will she make along the way? Emma's hands trembled as she unfolded the old, yellowed letter she had found hidden in the bottom of Thomas's drawer. The handwriting was elegant, but the words etched into the paper revealed a tale of heartbreak and betrayal. Elizabeth, the woman in the photographs, had written the letter years ago, confessing her love for another man. As Emma read the last line, she couldn't help but feel the weight of Thomas's pain. Determined to help Thomas, Emma took it upon herself to learn more about Elizabeth. She spent hours researching, looking through old records and photos, trying to piece together the story of their relationship. She discovered that Elizabeth had been the love of Thomas's life, but their romance had been torn apart by lies and deceit. In a series of flashbacks, the story of Thomas and Elizabeth's love unfolds. They had met in college and quickly became inseparable. Thomas, the charming and ambitious young man, had fallen deeply in love with Elizabeth, a kind and talented artist. Their love was the kind that people dream of, but it was not meant to last. Betrayal struck, and Elizabeth's confession shattered Thomas's world. As Emma delves deeper into Thomas's past, she uncovers more secrets. She learns that Thomas had been harboring his own share of guilt. He had discovered Elizabeth's affair but had chosen to remain silent, hoping that their love would prevail. The burden of these secrets had taken a toll on him, leading to his eventual isolation and coma. Emma begins to see parallels between her own life and Thomas's. She, too, had experienced heartbreak and betrayal, and she found solace in helping others. As she spent more time with Thomas, she felt a growing connection, a bond that went beyond the professional relationship of a nurse and her patient. One evening, as Emma sat beside Thomas, she made a silent vow. She would not let his story end in despair. She would do everything in her power to help him find peace and, perhaps, even love again. Thomas's condition showed small but noticeable signs of improvement. Emma's voice seemed to reach him, stirring something deep within. One night, as she recounted a story from her own past, she saw a faint smile play on his lips. It was a fleeting moment, but it filled her with hope and determination. As Emma continues to unravel the mysteries of Thomas's past, she discovers a connection that ties their fates together in ways she could never have imagined. What she finds next will challenge everything she thought she knew about love and forgiveness. How far will she go to help Thomas? And what sacrifices will she be willing to make along the way? Emma couldn't shake the feeling of unease as she continued to explore the fragments of Thomas's past. The hidden letter had revealed a painful betrayal, but there were still so many unanswered questions. Who was the man Elizabeth had written about? And what had driven her to leave Thomas? Emma decided to visit places that had once been significant to Thomas and Elizabeth. She began with the university where they had met, hoping to find someone who could shed light on their relationship. As she walked through the ivy-covered campus, she felt a strange connection to the past, as if she could almost see Thomas and Elizabeth walking hand in hand. While at the university, Emma met Professor Harold Bennett, a retired history professor who had known Thomas and Elizabeth during their college years. Professor Bennett was a kind-hearted man with a wealth of stories and memories. Over coffee, he shared tales of their love, their dreams, and the tragic events that had torn them apart. Through Professor Bennett's stories, Emma learned about the final days of Thomas and Elizabeth's relationship. The pressure of their respective careers had taken a toll on their love. Elizabeth, feeling neglected and alone, had sought solace in the arms of another man. When Thomas discovered the affair, he was devastated, but he chose to stay silent, hoping to salvage their relationship. The burden of this secret, however, became too much to bear. Determined to uncover the identity of the man who had come between them, Emma continued her investigation. She discovered that the man was Richard Anderson, a successful lawyer and a former friend of Thomas. Richard and Elizabeth had met at a charity event, and their relationship had blossomed from there. As Emma delved deeper into the past, she found herself growing more emotionally invested in Thomas's story. She couldn't help but feel a pang of empathy for him, knowing the pain he had endured. One evening, as she sat by his bedside, she poured out her heart, sharing her own experiences of betrayal and heartbreak. In that moment, she felt a profound connection to Thomas, as if their souls were intertwined. Thomas's condition continued to show subtle signs of improvement. Emma's presence seemed to bring him closer to the surface, stirring something deep within him. She noticed more frequent flickers of movement and even the occasional tear. It was as if her words were reaching him, pulling him back from the abyss. As Emma's investigation into Thomas's past deepens, she stumbles upon a shocking revelation about Richard Anderson. The truth she uncovers threatens to shatter everything she thought she knew about love and loyalty. How far will Emma go to uncover the truth? And what sacrifices will she be willing to make along the way? The answers lie in the shadows of betrayal. Emma's search for the truth about Richard Anderson led her to uncover a series of troubling connections. She found that Richard's influence extended far beyond his relationship with Elizabeth. He was a man of power and influence, with a history of manipulating those around him to get what he wanted. As Emma delved deeper into Richard's life, she realized that his betrayal had far-reaching consequences that affected not only Thomas and Elizabeth but others as well. During her investigation, Emma was approached by a woman named Margaret, who claimed to have known Richard and Elizabeth. Margaret, a former colleague of Elizabeth's, shared her own stories of Richard's manipulations and deceit. She revealed that Richard had not only seduced Elizabeth, but had also orchestrated events to ensure that Thomas would never learn the full truth. In a series of flashbacks, the extent of Richard's deceit became clear. He had used his charm and influence to weave a web of lies, playing on Elizabeth's insecurities and driving a wedge between her and Thomas. Richard's ultimate goal had been to take over Thomas's business empire, and he had succeeded in doing so by exploiting Thomas's emotional vulnerability. Emma's determination to help Thomas grew stronger with each new revelation. She felt a deep sense of injustice for what had been done to him and was resolved to see him awaken and reclaim his life. As she continued to care for Thomas, her bond with him deepened, and she found herself more emotionally invested than ever. One afternoon, Emma received an unexpected visitor at the hospital. It was Richard Anderson himself, his presence exuding an air of confidence and arrogance. He claimed to be checking on Thomas's condition, but Emma sensed that there was more to his visit. She remained cautious, aware that Richard was capable of anything. Emma and Richard had a tense conversation, during which she subtly hinted at her knowledge of his past actions. Richard's demeanor remained calm, but there was a flicker of unease in his eyes. He warned Emma to stay out of matters that didn't concern her, but Emma stood her ground, determined to protect Thomas and uncover the full truth. Thomas continued to show signs of improvement, and Emma's dedication seemed to be paying off. His movements became more pronounced, and there were moments when his eyes flickered open, only to close again. Emma remained hopeful, believing that Thomas's awakening was within reach. As Emma's confrontation with Richard intensifies, she stumbles upon a hidden document that reveals a shocking conspiracy involving not only Richard, but also other powerful figures. The revelations threaten to upend everything Emma thought she knew about Thomas's coma and the forces that had kept him there. How far will Emma go to protect Thomas and uncover the truth? And what sacrifices will she be willing to make along the way? Emma carefully examined the hidden document she had discovered. It was a collection of legal papers and personal letters that unveiled a dark conspiracy involving Richard Anderson and several other powerful figures. The documents revealed a calculated plan to strip Thomas of his wealth and influence, leaving him powerless and forgotten. As Emma absorbed the gravity of the situation, she knew she had to act quickly to protect Thomas and expose the truth. Emma's resolve to help Thomas strengthened as she realized the extent of the betrayal he had suffered. She felt a burning sense of justice and a deep empathy for the man who had been wronged. With a newfound determination, she decided to confront Richard and the others involved in the conspiracy, despite the risks. Emma arranged a meeting with Richard under the pretense of discussing Thomas's condition. They met in a secluded cafe, away from prying eyes. Richard's confident facade wavered as Emma presented the documents, laying bare his deceit. She demanded that he come clean and relinquish his hold over Thomas's affairs. Through a series of flashbacks, the full extent of the betrayal came to light. Richard had manipulated key figures in Thomas's life, orchestrating events to ensure his downfall. From sabotaging business deals to planting false evidence, Richard's actions were calculated and ruthless. Elizabeth, caught in the web of lies, had been an unwitting pawn in his game. As Emma confronted Richard, she felt a mix of fear and determination. She knew that her actions could have serious consequences, but she was willing to take the risk for Thomas's sake. Richard, realizing that his secrets were no longer safe, attempted to intimidate Emma, but her unwavering resolve left him momentarily speechless. Despite Richard's threats, Emma remained steadfast. She knew that the truth had to come out no matter the cost. She sought out allies within Thomas's circle, those who had remained loyal to him despite the years of turmoil. Together, they devised a plan to expose the conspiracy and restore Thomas's legacy. Back at the hospital, Thomas continued to show signs of recovery. Emma's dedication and the growing support from those who believed in Thomas's innocence seemed to have a positive effect. There were moments when Thomas's eyes flickered open, and he seemed to respond to Emma's voice. It was as if the walls of his coma were slowly crumbling. As Emma worked tirelessly to uncover the truth, she found solace in the growing bond between her and Thomas. She felt a deep connection to him, one that transcended the physical and touched the very core of her being. Each day brought new challenges, but also new hope that Thomas would awaken and reclaim his life. As Emma's efforts to expose the conspiracy gathered momentum, She faces unexpected obstacles that threaten to derail her mission. A powerful adversary emerges, determined to keep the truth buried and maintain their grip on Thomas's fortune. How far will Emma go to protect Thomas and bring justice to those who wronged him? The stakes are higher than ever, and the path ahead is fraught with danger. Emma's efforts to expose the conspiracy had begun to attract unwanted attention. The powerful figures who had conspired to ruin Thomas were growing increasingly desperate to keep their secrets hidden. As Emma continued her investigation, she received anonymous threats, warning her to back off. But her determination only grew stronger. She couldn't abandon Thomas now. One evening, as Emma left the hospital, she was approached by a man named Michael, who claimed to have once been Thomas's business partner. Michael, who had also been wronged by the conspirators, offered his assistance. Together, they began to piece together the final elements of the conspiracy, uncovering more evidence of corruption and deceit. Through Michael's recollections, Emma learned about the aftermath of the betrayal. Thomas had spiraled into depression, feeling abandoned by those he trusted most. His business empire crumbled as Richard and his cohorts seized control. The weight of the emotional and financial burden had ultimately led to Thomas's coma. Determined to bring the truth to light, Emma and Michael devised a risky plan. They would gather all the evidence they had uncovered and present it to the authorities, exposing the full extent of the conspiracy. But they knew they had to be cautious. Their adversaries were powerful and would stop at nothing to protect their interests. As the days passed, Thomas's condition continued to improve. Emma's presence had a profound impact on him, and he seemed to respond to her voice and touch. There were moments when his eyes flickered open, and he appeared to recognize her. Emma's heart swelled with hope, believing that Thomas's awakening was within reach. One evening, as Emma sat by Thomas's bedside, she poured out her heart to him. She confessed her growing feelings for him, the bond that had developed between them over the past weeks. She spoke of her determination to see him awake and reclaim his life. As she spoke, a single tear rolled down Thomas's cheek, a sign that her words were reaching him. The night before they were set to present their evidence, Emma and Michael were confronted by Richard's henchmen. A tense altercation ensued, but Emma and Michael managed to escape with the evidence intact. They realized that their adversaries were growing more desperate, and the stakes were higher than ever. Despite the danger, Emma and Michael pressed on with their plan. They presented the evidence to the authorities, exposing the full extent of the conspiracy. The authorities launched an investigation, and the media quickly picked up the story, shining a spotlight on the corruption and betrayal that had led to Thomas's downfall. As the investigation gains momentum, Emma faces a new and unexpected threat that puts both her life and Thomas's recovery in jeopardy. With powerful enemies closing in, Emma must navigate a treacherous path to protect the man she has come to love and ensure that justice prevails. How far will she go to see Thomas awaken and reclaim his life, and what sacrifices will she be willing to make along the way? Emma's heart raced as she received an anonymous tip warning her of a new threat looming over her and Thomas. The message was cryptic but clear. Powerful enemies were closing in, and their desperation made them more dangerous than ever. Emma knew she had to stay vigilant, not only for her safety but for Thomas's recovery as well. Fearing for her life, Emma confided in Michael about the new threat. Together, they devised a plan to keep Emma safe while continuing their fight for justice. Emma wrote a heartfelt letter to Thomas, pouring out her emotions and her hopes for his recovery. She left the letter on his bedside table, praying that he would awaken and read it. In a flashback, the full extent of Richard's betrayal was revealed. He had not only manipulated Elizabeth, but had also orchestrated a series of events that led to Thomas's financial ruin. Richard's ultimate goal had been to take over Thomas's business empire, and he had succeeded by playing on Thomas's emotional vulnerability. With the authorities now involved, Emma and Michael knew they had to act fast. They presented the remaining evidence to the media, hoping to shine a light on the conspiracy and rally public support. The story quickly gained traction, and the media frenzy put additional pressure on the conspirators. Back at the hospital, Thomas continued to show signs of improvement. Emma's presence and dedication seemed to be breaking through the barriers of his coma. One evening, as Emma sat by his bedside, Thomas's eyes flickered open, and for a brief moment, he seemed to recognize her. Emma's heart swelled with hope, believing that his awakening was within reach. As the investigation progressed, Emma and Michael prepared for the final confrontation with Richard and his cohorts. They knew that the stakes were high, and the outcome could determine the future of Thomas's legacy. Emma's resolve never wavered, even in the face of danger. One night, as Emma was about to leave the hospital, she received a call from Michael. He had uncovered a critical piece of evidence that could bring the entire conspiracy crashing down. The evidence pointed to a financial transaction that linked Richard and his associates to illegal activities. Emma felt a renewed sense of hope, believing that justice was within their grasp. Thomas's condition continued to improve, and there were moments when he seemed to respond to Emma's voice. Emma remained by his side, speaking to him about their shared hopes and dreams. Each day brought new challenges, but also new hope that Thomas would awaken and reclaim his life. As Emma and Michael prepare to present the final piece of evidence, they face unexpected obstacles that threaten to derail their mission. A powerful adversary emerges, determined to keep the truth buried and maintain their grip on Thomas's fortune. How far will Emma go to protect Thomas and bring justice to those who wronged him? The stakes are higher than ever, and the path ahead is fraught with danger. The evidence that Michael had uncovered was damning. It linked Richard Anderson and his associates to a series of illegal financial transactions, revealing the extent of their corruption. Emma and Michael knew that presenting this evidence to the authorities would be the key to bringing down the conspiracy and vindicating Thomas. As Emma and Michael prepared to hand over the evidence, they faced an unexpected obstacle. Richard's henchmen had infiltrated their ranks, and the critical evidence was stolen. Emma felt a surge of panic, realizing that their efforts could be thwarted at the final hurdle. Determined not to give up, Emma and Michael devised a new plan to recover the evidence and ensure justice prevailed. In their moment of need, Emma and Michael received help from an unexpected source. Margaret, the former colleague of Elizabeth, had been secretly gathering information on Richard and his associates. She provided Emma and Michael with additional evidence and helped them navigate the dangerous waters of their investigation. Through a series of flashbacks, the full extent of Thomas's downfall became clear. Richard's manipulations had not only ruined Thomas's business, but had also driven a wedge between him and his closest allies. Thomas had become isolated and vulnerable, and the weight of the betrayal had ultimately led to his coma. Emma's resolve to help Thomas only grew stronger in the face of adversity. She felt a deep connection to him, and her love for him fueled her determination. She knew that they were on the brink of uncovering the truth and bringing justice to those who had wronged him. Emma and Michael prepared for the final confrontation with Richard and his associates. They gathered their allies and presented the new evidence to the authorities. The tension was palpable as they awaited the outcome, knowing that their efforts could change the course of Thomas's life. Back at the hospital, Thomas continued to show signs of awakening. Emma's presence had a profound impact on him, and he seemed to respond to her touch and voice. One evening, as Emma sat by his bedside, Thomas's eyes flickered open, and he whispered her name. Emma's heart swelled with hope, believing that his full recovery was within reach. As Thomas began to regain consciousness, Emma stayed by his side, supporting him through every step of his recovery. Their bond grew stronger, and Emma felt a deep sense of fulfillment in helping him reclaim his life. Thomas, in turn, found solace in Emma's unwavering support and love. As Thomas begins to fully awaken, he and Emma face new challenges that threaten to unravel the progress they have made. Powerful enemies continue to seek their downfall, and the path to justice remains fraught with danger. How far will Emma and Thomas go to protect each other and ensure that the truth prevails? The stakes are higher than ever, and the journey ahead is filled with uncertainty and peril. Thomas's eyes fluttered open, his gaze locking onto Emma's. For the first time in 17 years, he was awake, disoriented but aware. Emma's heart raced with joy and relief as she whispered his name. Thomas's voice was weak, but he managed to utter a few words, expressing his gratitude for her unwavering support. Emma's eyes filled with tears as she realized that her efforts had finally paid off. Thomas's recovery was slow and arduous. He struggled to regain his strength and mobility, but Emma was by his side every step of the way. Their bond deepened, and Thomas began to open up about the pain and betrayal he had endured. Emma listened with empathy, her love for him growing stronger with each passing day. As Thomas regained his strength, he learned about the conspiracy that had led to his coma. Emma and Michael shared the evidence they had uncovered, revealing the extent of Richard's deceit. Thomas was both devastated and determined to see justice served. He vowed to reclaim his life and expose those who had wronged him. Through a series of flashbacks, Thomas recounted the events leading up to his coma. He spoke of the moment he discovered Elizabeth's betrayal, the heartbreak that had consumed him, and the isolation that followed. The weight of the secrets he had kept had taken a toll on him, and he had retreated into a world of silence. With Emma's support, Thomas began to rebuild his life. He reconnected with old friends and allies, seeking their help in exposing the conspiracy. Together, they gathered the final pieces of evidence, determined to bring Richard and his associates to justice. Emma, Thomas, and Michael prepared for the final confrontation with Richard and his cohorts. They knew that the stakes were high and that their enemies would stop at nothing to protect their secrets. As they presented the evidence to the authorities, the tension was palpable and the outcome uncertain. The media frenzy surrounding the conspiracy reached a fever pitch as the truth came to light. Richard and his associates were arrested, and the extent of their corruption was exposed for all to see. Thomas's name was cleared, and he began to reclaim his legacy. With the conspiracy behind them, Thomas and Emma looked to the future. Their bond had grown stronger through the trials they had faced, and they found solace in each other's love. Thomas's recovery continued, and he began to rebuild his business empire, this time with Emma by his side. As Thomas and Emma embark on their new journey together, they face unforeseen challenges that test their resilience and love. Powerful enemies still lurk in the shadows, determined to reclaim their lost power. How far will Thomas and Emma go to protect their newfound happiness and ensure that justice prevails? The stakes are higher than ever, and the path ahead is fraught with uncertainty and peril. Thomas's eyes fluttered open, locking onto Emma's. For the first time in 17 years, he was awake. Emma's heart raced with joy as she whispered his name. Thomas's voice was weak, but he managed to express his gratitude. Emma's eyes filled with tears, realizing her efforts had paid off. Thomas's recovery was slow. He struggled to regain strength, but Emma was by his side. Their bond deepened, and Thomas opened up about the pain and betrayal he endured. Emma listened with empathy, her love for him growing stronger. As Thomas regained strength, Emma and Michael shared the evidence they uncovered, revealing Richard's deceit. Thomas was devastated but determined to see justice served. He vowed to reclaim his life and expose those who had wronged him. Thomas recounted the events leading to his coma. He spoke of discovering Elizabeth's betrayal, the heartbreak and isolation that followed. The secrets he kept had taken a toll, leading him into a coma. With Emma's support, Thomas began to rebuild his life. He reconnected with old friends and allies, seeking their help in exposing the conspiracy. Together, they gathered the final pieces of evidence. Emma, Thomas, and Michael prepared for the final confrontation with Richard and his associates. They presented the evidence to the authorities. The tension was palpable, and the outcome uncertain. The media frenzy brought to light the conspiracy. Richard and his associates faced justice, and Thomas's name was cleared. He began to rebuild his business empire with Emma by his side. Thomas and Emma decided to take a trip to the countryside. They found peace in the serene landscape, their love blossoming. As they walked hand in hand, they spoke of their dreams and aspirations. One evening, by a tranquil lake, Thomas professed his love and asked Emma to be his partner for life. Emma, her heart overflowing with joy, accepted without hesitation. Thomas and Emma's wedding was a celebration of love and resilience. Surrounded by friends and family, they exchanged vows and promised to support each other. It was a joyous occasion filled with laughter and tears. Thomas discovered Elizabeth's hidden journal, where she wrote about her regrets and enduring love for him. The journal brought closure, and Thomas found peace in the knowledge that their love had been real. Thomas and Emma dedicated themselves to helping others who had faced similar hardships. They established a foundation to support those wronged by corruption, using their resources to make a positive impact. Thomas and Emma's journey was one of love and resilience. They overcame the darkness of betrayal and found a new beginning filled with hope. Their love endured the tests of time, and they faced the future with unwavering strength and determination.